going. So if we keep this up, maybe we'll be able to fill the whole park someday. Women have made very good progress in America in the last 200 years. We gained the right to vote 92 years ago today when the 19th Amendment was passed, and this is why August 26th is officially designated as Women's Equality Day. We've subsequently gained many other rights, largely beginning in World War II when we were grudgingly permitted to function in jobs previously reserved for men. Most of those jobs were taken from women when the war ended, but we proved our abilities and destroyed the myth that we couldn't do what was defined as man's work. In subsequent decades, particularly in the 1960s and 70s, there were many breakthroughs for women in terms of equality, employment, social programs, contraception, abortion, and so on. There are several key lessons to learn from our progress over the years. First and most important, every victory was the product of an intense, organized, independent struggle waged by women and whatever male allies were willing to join with them. This is true whether victory derived from a constitutional amendment or a court decision or legislative action. There never has been a victory without a struggle. Indeed, it took virtually 100 years of continual struggle and sacrifice for women to gain the national right to vote in our ostensibly democratic society. The fact that there usually isn't a candidate to vote for who will wholeheartedly back our agenda is another matter, of course, and will be consigned to a different kind of meeting. Second, we may have come a long way economically, socially, and politically, but we still have a long way to go for full equality. You heard the statistics on the gender gap in employment, and our sisters from oppressed communities, African Americans, Latinas, and Native Americans have the hardest road to travel. We must not rest until all of us get to the finish line. And third, the voices of reaction, the political right wing in combination with fundamentalist religious elements, are determined to wipe out some of our gains. They want to outlaw abortion under any and all circumstances. They want to limit the availability of contraception. They want to get rid of social programs that benefit poor women and their children, and they want to erode other of our advances. In effect, they want to push us back, and they don't give up. Obviously, we must never give up. This brings us to point 4, right? We must never give up. So the fourth lesson we learn is, if struggle got us victories, if we still have a long way to go, if the opponents of social progress are trying to push us back, it seems entirely logical for us to revive the organized struggle for women's rights. We cannot rely simply on living in a democracy to do the job for us, nor can we rely on the two-party system as constituted to do the job for us. We ourselves must do the job through our own struggle, as we have done before, at which point democracy and the political system are forced to take notice and make changes. History shows that all substantial change first starts with people in motion, making demands upon the prevailing system. Several major national women's organizations exist now, from groups like NOW and NARAL to service-oriented organizations like Planned Parenthood. We support these groups, but they cannot do the job alone. We need a revival of an independent, progressive, and activist women's movement in America to protect our existing rights and extend those rights. Yeah. Hopefully, the pro-woman demonstrations taking place in several American cities, such as Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, and Chicago, and in our small town of New Paltz, will make a contribution to reviving such a movement. I conclude with the 4 demands of this rally. Full reproductive rights now. Access to birth control, safe, legal abortion on demand, and an end to abstinence-only sex education in our schools. That was one. Demand number 2, women's rights in the workplace, pay equity, family and maternity leave, and an end to sexual harassment at work. Demand number 3, stop the budget cuts. Cutting federal and state social services and eliminating public sector jobs disproportionately punish poor women, working women, and women of color. And finally, full equality and respect now. Fight racism, sexism, and anti-LGBT bigotry, and end violence against women. I'd now like to introduce our next speaker. The problem with having so much paper is that you lose. Okay, Elizabeth Gross, a recent SUNY New Paltz graduate, a wonderful feminist, and founder of the New Paltz Feminist Collective. Elizabeth.